a half hour to. It's an indefinite time. Let's just put it that way. It'll be an indefinite timed tribute to one Macho Man Randy Savage, who unfortunately passed away on Friday. The wrestling world was shocked and saddened by his loss, and so we're just going to spend some time and talk about his impact on the world of wrestling. And Ken, as a old time WWF fan or WWE fan, you can pretty much attest to the awesomeness of the Macho Man character.
Yes, I can.
Yeah, quite simply put. What was your first big attraction to the character? Because myself, I know just growing up and having friends around and that stuff, at the time, the WWF was the cool thing.
Well, myself, I didn't get into wrestling probably till when I was a little wee lad, about 4 or 5. I
Right,
used to
right.
watch Maple Leaf Wrestling
Mm-hmm.
on ITV, which is now Global.
Mm-hmm.
And the first match I remember watching was a Big Boss Man Randy Savage match. I think it was like 88, 89.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time I was more of a Big Boss Man fan, but as I grew up, I discovered and I learned that Randy Savage was probably one of the craziest promo guys in the world. There was no one who could cut a promo like him.
And just the rhymes that he'd just rattle off in those promos are just something else, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, yes, he was ripping off the superstar Billy Graham a little bit in some of those and that stuff, but just with the gruff voice and that stuff, when you hear like the I used to be able to do a dead on Macho Man impression when I was younger, but now I can't. My voice has changed obviously, and so it's just like but um, the the lines like the Tower of Power, too sweet to be sour, and stuff like that, and Macho Madness and everything. They're just enough to blow your mind in those promos. They were just fantastic, fantastic promos.
and they were nonsensical. Like how the Warrior had nonsensical promos,
Yeah,
but Buncho Mans were much more entertaining than the Warriors.
because Macho Man's actually had a point, and they did end up, leading you. Oh, okay, that is what he's thinking. Whereas the Warrior would just come out on TV and ramble for 2 minutes. You
Yeah,
know, Randy Savage would ramble, but he would ramble to a means to an end, to a point where it'd be like, oh, okay, okay, it makes sense now, right? So,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah, big time. For myself, I have to say that I wasn't really huge into wrestling during that time that he was big into WWF and that stuff. My real first exposure to the WWF Randy Savage was through old Coliseum home videos and that stuff that I would rent when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Just and one of the thing that really got me sort of hooked and just wow, what a character this is and that stuff is Survivor Series '89. Believe it or not, it was the catalyst of the feud between Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage. Well, it's not really the catalyst, but it was Hulk Hogan versus Zeus, if you can
Okay.
remember correctly from the No Holds Barred movie. That real gem of silver screen awesomeness, I guess. uh, but anyway, there was a cage match that was going to happen on the pay per view, I guess, premiere of this movie or whatever, and it was going to be Hulk Hogan and Brutus the Barber Beefcake versus the Macho King Randy Savage at the time and Zeus. And well, a few years later, I ended up watching the actual cage match, and even as a newbie wrestling fan at the time and that stuff, I could tell that it was not the best match ever put together. We'll put it that way. But the
Yeah.
promos leading up to that match were just sensational. With the two of them and that stuff, and Savage and Sherry behind the cage and that stuff, saying that Hulk Hogan it's the end of the line and that stuff, and Beefcake, you're guilty by association, so you must go as well, and stuff. It's just enough to blow your mind. Yeah, so it was big stuff. It was great stuff, and then of course at the time is right when I learned that WCW existed, and they had all these old WWF guys like Hogan and Savage and stuff like that, and then that's when I made the crossover to watch WCW, and that was just in the infancy of the NWO days in '96.
Mhm.
So that was pretty cool stuff to see on the Superstation TBS and Global at the time. Uh, I get.
And I remember, you know, I took a break from wrestling when I was a younger teenager.
Hmm.
I didn't get back into it till I started watching WCW Thunder in '98.
Right,
Of all shows,
right.
I got into it again. And during that time, Macho Man was part of the Wolf Pack.
Hmm.
And what was he doing? I think they were doing a tag team match during that one of the Thunders.
Right.
And yeah, that was the first match. So basically, my first match had a Warrior, or sorry, our first match had a Randy Savage match in it.
Yeah.
And then my first match returning to wrestling had a Randy Savage match in it.
Nice. Well, that's kind of cool. It's kind of got a nice little of symmetry to it, or a nice little parallel drawn there. So
Exactly.
it's good stuff. Earlier on the site, I'm not sure if you were able to check it out this weekend, this past weekend, and that stuff. But earlier on the site, I put down the top 10 Macho Man Randy Savage matches of all time. In parentheses, as picked by Kellen Nitro. Uh, and I'll just run down the list, and if you want to delete one or kind of move it or give your opinion on where it should be on the list and that stuff, or even what opinion you would give on that match itself, go right ahead. But I have number 10 is the aforementioned No Holds Barred the match, steel cage match from December of '89 with Savage and Zeus versus Hogan and Brutus the Barber Beefcake. And I put that down at number 10 is the only emotional attachment I have with that, is that was the match or the angle that got me into pro wrestling, and more importantly the WWF style of pro wrestling at the time.
Hmm.
That's the only emotional attachment I have really with that, because the match itself was not a thing of beauty. It was not very good.
But it had the debut of Zeus.
Tony Norris, later to be known as Z Gangsta in WCW. He was involved in that. I'm not sure if you remember this, but in '96, this was just prior to the WCW NWO warring angle at Bash of the Beach. It was Macho and Hogan in a free tier steel cage against like the Dungeon of Doom and Z Gangsta, and that's who Z Gangsta was Zeus. But he couldn't use the name Zeus because it was a WWF trademark for intellectual property, so he became the Z Gangsta.
If you ever want a lesson in booking on how to push two wrestlers and bury everyone else, that would be the perfect example. Because basically, Macho Man and Hulk Hogan just destroyed 10 people in a three-decker cage.
In the weirdest match of all time. If you get a chance, it's on YouTube. Just YouTube Uncensored '96 Triple Cage of Doom or whatever they call it. It was
Doomsday Cage, yeah.
yeah, Doomsday Cage. It was very I'll go out and say it's very world class booking, like world class championship wrestling type booking.
It was during the feud Hogan had with um, the Dungeon of Doom and Savage was having with the Four Horsemen.
Yes, the um the Kevin Sullivan feud with Hogan, and then the Ric Flair Hogan
Feud with Flair.
yeah, with
Or the Randy
Savage.
Savage feud with Flair.
Yeah, yeah. So anyway, number 9 on my list, I put down from WrestleMania 10, the Macho Man versus Crush match, and I did some research on that. Did you know that that was the very first Falls Count Anywhere match ever featured on WWF pay-per-view?
I could tell.
It was, it's a fun match to watch, though.
It's a fun match. The rules didn't work at all. I remember he tied up Crush in some cable, but the cable didn't hold him at all.
That was quite a finish to that match. I've never seen a match in my life where the heel would end up hanging by his feet at the end there. I always thought they were trying to rip off some Clint Eastwood film or something like that with a ending like that, where the outlaw gets hung from the sky or something, But
it was a fun match. That card was just a great card all around. If you have a chance to watch WrestleMania 10, I would recommend it.
Yeah, and it's arguably Savage gets the biggest pop of the night from anybody from the crowd or anything like that. He gets the Road Warrior pop when he comes to the ring. that night.
Hmm.
Yeah, even like the crowd was. There were two great matches for intros, and that's one of them from that
Yep.
pay-per-view WrestleMania 10. The other one was the first match between Brett and Owen Hart, just
Which
because you could
is
tell who was hated and who was, that was where both. You could tell where the fans stood in that match.
well, if you do a Redhead Bulldog top 10 matches of all time, the opener match on that card is number 3.
Nice, nice.
Yep.
Yeah, no, it's a great match. It's one of the classics, and the Macho Man Crush match
Yep.
is still really good to watch and that's
It's a fun match.
yeah. No, number 8, I got Randy Savage versus Million Dollar Man Ted DiBiase in the undisputed WWF Championship Tournament final from WrestleMania 4.
In Atlantic City.
Yes, at Trump Plaza. I
Yes.
I have this as a as a number 8 because it's a very short match. The match itself is less than 10 minutes long, but that's because Macho wrestled 3 matches earlier on in the card to
Hmm.
get to that point, whereas DiBiase only wrestled what 2? He had a bye in one round or something like that. The way they booked it, and it's just great match and an awesome ending. If anything, this card showed Macho as a workhorse for the company because he had
Well,
just come off of the Intercontinental title reign and that stuff, and the match with Steamboat a year earlier. And
yeah.
yeah, if you got anything to add, go ahead. I'm
I thought
sorry
you
I
were
cut you off,
continuing.
but
That's why I was waiting.
yeah,
But
no, 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 go for it.
with the tournament, they had Macho Man work with 3 pretty much completely different wrestlers prior to Ted DiBiase.
Oh yeah,
With One Man Gang, which is pretty much like working with Mabel or
yeah,
Viscera.
yeah, a super heavyweight.
Exactly. Then they
Yeah,
had him fight a veteran, like
Valentine.
the
Yep,
Hammer.
yep, technical match. Yep.
And who did he fight first?
The natural Butch Reed, I think. Was it the natural Butch Reed? I think
Oh, I
so.
think was it Dino Bravo or Butch Reed?
I think it was Butch Reed.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
We better get this correct because if we don't, then
Yeah. Yeah.
give me 1 second.
Yeah. All right.
Let's,
I'm Wikipediaing this too.
we're both Wikipedia because we don't want to be wrong.
Yeah, exactly. Well, go ahead. You go ahead and find.
You were right. Butch Reed. Butch
It
Reed.
was it was Butch Reed. Okay, good.
Yeah.
I guess you'd classify Butch Reed as more of a power wrestler, eh? This is kind of
Yeah.
a at that point in his career and stuff because it's just prior to his jump to WCW where he teamed with Ron Simmons and became Doom. But anyway, I'm not sure if anybody out there remembers Doom, but
Well, there might be one guy who's listening who's the biggest Doom fan, and for that, we salute you.
yes, that's right. For those about to rock, anyway. Number 7, I have Savage versus Flair from WrestleMania 8. Um, and the reason why it's down that low on there is the angle itself. I was just trying to think about the first time I had watched these matches and that stuff, and I was probably fairly young, about 10, 11, 12 years old when I saw the majority of these matches for the first time. And the Flair and Savage match from WrestleMania 8 just really seemed to me it was a great match, but it seemed like the angle and everything just was put together quickly.
Hmm.
And now we know why, because the initial plan was to have Flair and Hogan at WrestleMania 8, but the crowd didn't really want to work up to it and stuff like that. But yeah, I remember watching this match on an old Coliseum video cassette in the day, and the angle, the whole build up, and the big thing for me that makes this match is Heenan's commentary throughout the match.
Oh, Heenan's is hilarious. Heenan's my favorite commentator. The thing I loved about the feud is it all centered around Miss Elizabeth. Ric
Yes.
Flair basically wanted to sleep with her,
Yeah.
and Savage being he was a good guy at the time. He didn't want Mr. Nature Boy to sleep with his wife. So
Yeah, and married to Elizabeth too at the time, and it's just like, okay, yep, all right, I understand it. So, number 6, this is a match you probably remember seeing because it was a WCW match from the '97 Great American Bash. Do you remember the Diamond Dallas Page Randy Savage Lights Out match?
no.
No, wow.
I'm looking at some of these matches right now, and I'm like, oh crap, I haven't seen some of these yet.
Ken, if you get a chance, check this one out. It's fantastic. Um it's the match is out of control from the start, and Dusty Rhodes' commentary is way over the top here and that stuff, and they beat each other with a barbecue. They beat each other with a I wish I could make this up, but I'm not. They beat each other with a picnic table, and the NWO comes out, and it's typical NWO build up, right? It's just like wow.
So it's more of it's a last man standing match.
It is. Well,
Yeah.
that's essentially what it is. Is a lights out match. It's lights or last man standing. So
Okay.
the winner is whoever makes the loser not answer the 10 count, or gets a KO, right? So
Yes.
yeah. So but no, I everybody, you got to check this match out. It's fantastic. And this is just when Paige was just starting to get a just a little bit big and that stuff. And there was a thing going on too, a very minor thing that was kind of interesting throughout the match. Is halfway through, for one of the quiet bits, you've actually see Miss Elizabeth, I'm sorry, get physically involved in this match because she has a cat fight with Kim Page in the ring.
Cat fight, cat fight.
Yep, exactly. So it's
Also Joey Styles.
yep, yeah. Hey, it's a great match. I loved it. Absolutely loved it.
I will check it out as soon as Yeah, I
Definitely.
will check it out as well as all the radio listeners as soon as this podcast's over. Yeah,
Yeah, just check it out, but don't do it during the podcast. Check it out after. That's about it. So,
exactly.
exactly. Number 5, I got the mixed tag from WrestleMania 6. Savage and Sherry versus Dusty Rhodes and Sweet Sapphire.
Um, I not one of my favorite matches. However, I understood what it is at the time because I was doing some research. Savage was stealing the show every WrestleMania.
Yeah.
And this was their big Hogan Warrior WrestleMania.
Okay, so they figured, and
They
let me get.
figured if they put Warrior in a mixed tag match, he can't steal the card.
Oh, you mean Savage in a mixed tag match? Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah, no, no, no. But that's a good point. Put him, because Savage and Rhodes itself probably would have stole the card.
exactly.
Yeah, it would have stole the card, definitely. So if you put Sherry in there with Sapphire, who, by all accounts, and if you ever watch the Dusty Rhodes DVD, Rhodes admits that she couldn't wrestle worth, 2 cents because she had bad hips at the time
Yeah.
going into this match and that stuff. And then this match just kind of led to the end of her career in the WWF a little bit later at SummerSlam. But it just it exactly right. It's just it's a great match for what it is, and it is the very first time they ever used the mixed tag uh, stipulation on pay per view. And yeah, but it's quick too, so it's not overly long. Like I think if the match tops out at 12 minutes, you're lucky. But that was back in the day on WrestleMania where they fit like 16 matches in a 3 hour window.
Which is amazing to think because now they can barely fit seven,
Exactly.
and some of the matches are still like 5 minutes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No kidding. Uh,
The thing I like about Savage, like this is one of his lesser WrestleMania matches, but he steals a show every time he's on a card. That's one of the things that makes Macho Man a great worker. So
yeah, exactly. Especially that time too, and he was such a detail freak. Hulk Hogan has stated so many times in the past that Savage himself.
he pretty
Uh,
much has a script before the match.
yeah, exactly. Was such a detail freak, right to the nuances, the little nuances in the match and that stuff that it had to be done right, and that he was just a perfectionist, right? So, that's always a good thing. Number 4, I have the infamous Randy Savage versus Jake the Snake Roberts match from this Tuesday in Texas in October of '92. This is the infamous the fallout from the infamous Cobra biting Randy Savage on Superstars
Yes,
match. Yeah,
this was a feud that was building up since SummerSlam.
yeah,
I can't. I think Jake the Snake was ruined the wedding with. Was he tagged with the Undertaker then?
yeah. Yeah,
Yes.
there was like doing some sort of weird Dark Alliance thing or something. There wasn't really a name for them, but they were just kind of booked together on shows because snakes and death. That's scary. Ooh. But yeah, no, this match itself is fantastic because Roberts is doing his whole "trust me" gimmick, at the time,
Yeah.
and Savage just won't take any of it. He's just really not. He's upset because
Well,
I've
his
I
wedding got ruined.
yeah, I was going to say Jay Lethal said it best in the TNA promo. Good 15 years later, Snake Roberts ruined my wedding. Enough said, right? So, yep. So that
But no, it's a good match. Like one of the things about Savage, he can almost have a good match with everyone.
yeah, exactly, including Jake the Snake, who was. It was that angle, and then there was a quick one with the Warrior that really didn't amount to nothing, and then there was the angle with the Undertaker at Mania at 8, and then he was out. He was gone to WCW at that point, and then that's
This
when they
is
were.
when, yeah, Jake's having a lot of personal demons with his life
Yeah,
during this
yeah,
time. So,
which is still to this day, Jake has personal demons, which is weird. It's
mhm.
like you look at all these guys in the wrestling industry that are going and gone, and here is Jake the Snake, who is essentially pickled to Keith Richards esque levels at this point,
Yeah.
and he's still around, which makes you wonder: is it possible to do once you get enough of that type of chemicals and that stuff in your system? Do you just are you preserved? Are you like a zombie or what? But
We'll find out 40 years from
I
now.
guess so. Yeah. If if we all kick off and he's still walking around, we know there's an issue then at that point. But
Tag team champs with Scott Hall, 2032.
oh God, please. Oh, I don't want to even think. But anyway, number 3 on the list, I have the retirement match from 7, which is Warrior and Savage.
This is one of my favorite Macho Man matches by far.
Right. Just
It's great storytelling. Absolutely great storytelling. Um, and he pulled out a great match from the Warrior, probably Warrior's best match of his career.
oh, guaranteed. Absolutely guaranteed. You can watch that. That is in anybody's WrestleMania top 10 nowadays.
Yeah,
Bar none. Absolutely
there's
bar none.
and I think Savage dropped like 6 elbows in a row, and Warrior would still not go down. And but then Warrior did his finish about 5 or 6 times, and Macho Man wouldn't go down.
No, exactly. So, yeah, and if you haven't seen it, first of all, which rock have you been living under? Second of all, check it out. But it's a fantastic match, and the build up for this match. Oh man, from the Royal Rumble on in that year in '91. Holy,
Yeah,
now
the
that's
build
how
up.
you build a match. That
Um, Macho Man sent Sherry to, to get a title shot by having Sherry seduce Warrior, but
lack of a better
Warrior.
term. Yep, yeah, yeah, and just Warrior says no, and then later on in the match with Slaughter at the Rumble ends up with you know part of the scepter from the Macho King embedded in Warrior's forehead, and
Loses the title. Yeah.
Slaughter walks away with the title, and then Warrior is ranting and raving that he's going to send Savage to the moon, Alice. But and then there we go. At the end of the match, Sherry gets kicked to the curve, and
But we do have a heartwarming ending.
yep, very heartwarming ending with Miss Elizabeth. So
Yeah, returning.
yeah. Number 2, and this will be an order. I know this list will be debated because when I posted this, I already had people on my Facebook and my Twitter account at Kellen Nitro and in the Freaking Nitro Facebook group debating, the order of the final 2 matches. It's I put number 2, the WrestleMania 5 Mega Powers Explode WWE Championship match between Savage and Hogan as number 2, and
Um,
I've but anyway, you were uh,
no, keep going, keep going. Sorry.
okay. Sorry about that. But I have that as number 2, and as number 1, I have the Savage Steamboat match from WrestleMania 3 for the IC title. Now, the argument that one person gave me is that, well, Savage and Hogan from Mania should be number 1 because the title was more important. Excuse me, but yeah, the title itself means nothing in both matches. These are show stealers. Whereas one was the main event, WrestleMania 3 was a show stealer.
Hmm.
So,
My opinions. Championship aside, it doesn't necessarily you have to have a championship to have a great match. Not at all.
no. Of course
Um,
not.
you mean I've seen matches where no belts even on the line, yet it's a great match.
No,
In this
guaranteed.
case, Hulk Hogan Macho Man was a 1 year long feud
Yeah.
that started right after WrestleMania 4
Hmm.
when they were tag teaming. Hogan and then Savage is getting jealous of Hogan and Elizabeth's working relationship
Right.
and turns heel. Where Macho Man Ricky Steamboat, had nothing, didn't really have much build up. I think Savage was feuding with George the Animal Steel.
Yeah, and then Steamboat became the number one contender for the title. They had fought a couple of times before, with
Yeah,
Macho
but
coming
never
out,
on a major stage.
never on a major stage, and then Savage, a few weeks before WrestleMania when they first announced the match, just to build it up, goes out on Saturday night's main event and breaks Steamboat's trachea with the ring bell.
Hmm.
Yeah, that was the only build up to it, and so
But
then didn't you
if
have the
you
returning
watch,
hero, right? But
yeah, well, if you watch any match, like Savage Steamboat's number two on my top 10. We've had two Savage matches in my top 10.
there you go. Told you he was influential.
However, with Savage and Steamboat, the amount of false finishes was ridiculous. They pretty much schoolboyed each other for like 5 minutes straight at one point.
It's great pro wrestling lore and great pro wrestling knowledge that Chris Jericho, when he was growing up in Winnipeg, him and his friend, I guess, memorized every single move to the Savage Steamboat match from Mania 3 and could reenact it on the absolute dime, or at a drop of a dime, I should say. Uh, and that stuff. So that's how influential that was. When you got a guy like Chris Jericho, who's a modern day legend in the sport and that stuff, saying that you are being influenced by, Randy Savage Ricky Steamboat match. This is, huge, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, and so many other names and that stuff. And then you talk to guys like modern day stars like John Cena or Jack Swagger and that stuff, and they say, oh yeah, Macho Man and Hogan were huge. You know, as,
Well, I
as
compare it to today's time where on TV right now you got Cena and Orton, right?
mm-hmm.
Based on their popularity levels, Cena is today's Hulk Hogan.
Yeah,
I'm not a fan of Cena, but I can see the appeal behind him.
exactly. The kids love him, so whatever.
And then Orton is the second biggest baby face, making him the Savage of the company.
Yeah.
And that's how they're being compared nowadays: is who's the Hogan and who's the Savage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No. 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 It's definitely big and that stuff and like we said, Savage is definitely one of the will always be one of the influential dudes ever in wrestling, and so much to the point where if you were going to send do up a 3 hour disc of what is pro wrestling and show it to somebody from I don't know Mars or something like that, somebody who's never seen pro wrestling before in their life and want to know what it is, you'd probably throw the Savage Steamboat match in there to show them.
Oh, definitely. No doubts about
No
that.
doubts about that. Exactly, as part of it, and maybe the Savage Hogan match from WrestleMania 5 in there as well, just to kind of
Yeah,
show them what it's like, right?
definitely. Out of all the DVDs that are out there right now, I recommend picking up the Macho Man DVD.
Oh yeah, the free disc set. Oh,
Yeah,
fantastic. Yeah,
yeah.
I have it at home, and it's a great watch. It's a great deal. So,
Well,
um,
definitely a Hall of Famer. Should be a Hall of Famer this year. I don't
yeah,
see why they wouldn't. So,
exactly. Capitalize on it and that stuff, and it's sad. It's a sad deal, and another pro wrestling icon taken away from us too soon, and this one a completely different reason from the past few that have happened and stuff like that.
oh,
We're,
you didn't see it coming. Like
yeah, exactly.
my friend texted me Friday morning. He's like at 9 a.m. He's like Savage died, and I'm like, seriously?
What? Yeah, no, I found out about it through reading the local dirt sheets on NoDQ.com and stuff like that, and I was like, no, no, somebody's making this up, and then it's like, well, I guess it's legit. They got sighting, and Meltzer saying it, and a whole bunch of other guys are saying it, and it's just like, oh crap.
And the big thing is, with the recent wrestling deaths, a lot of them you're like, okay, well, yeah, I can see what went wrong.
Yeah,
But Savage is just like, oh, yeah, that's horrific. It's just like, wow, that's just sudden.
It sounded like he was just starting to mend the bridge with the WWE. Like he had accepted the DVD
He
set
signed the
coming out and
Legends
that
deal.
stuff. He signed a Legends deal. He appeared in the latest video game for the WWE, the WWE All Stars game, and ended up as well promoting an action figure as recently as the just completed San Diego Comic Con here a few weeks ago for Mattel, I guess, in the WWE Legends collection they got through Mattel and that's for their action figures.
And there was tons of rumors that he would have been at the Hall of Fame regardless of what happened. So,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, happening in Florida and stuff like that, and next year in Miami or something. And
which is his home state. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So it was coming together and everything, but um, on the lighter side of Randy Savage, I think the thing that I'll miss most is the promos and the Slim Jim
Yeah.
promos. Yeah,
Yeah.
more importantly, considering that Slim Jim was still using his voice to even I would say probably about 3 or 4 years ago in their Slim Jim promos, like he was voicing them. Just brought him in just to voice Slim Jim promos. I mean, like
Yeah.
really.
His mainstream stuff was hilarious. Like
Yeah, exactly.
out of the Spider-Man movies, one of the most memorable things is Bonesaw.
Oh, Bonesaw, yeah.
Yeah. Bonesaw's ready.
Yeah. Oh, that was fantastic. And that was Spider-Man 1, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
it was.
Spider-Man 1.
Yeah, the first Spider-Man movie. Oh, that was fantastic. I popped in the theater when I seen that. I was like, "That's the Macho Man!" And then no, it was great. It was good stuff. And then what else did he did? He was in a couple other movies too. When he was in WCW in the '90s, like a couple of straight to TV movies, I think as well.
Yeah, it was. And there's also a lot of fan stuff that's on the internet. Like, um, there's a site, I can't remember. They just have nothing but Randy Savage pictures.
Yeah, where's RandySavage.com? We talked about it on the podcast a few times on Freaking Nitro Radio. It's fantastic.
Yeah. I saw one where he says the Golden Girls and who's the boss.
Yeah, exactly.
Elbow
Uh,
dropping politicians.
yeah, no kidding. One thing that not very many people know about was the. I'm not sure if you've seen it, but did you ever catch the Space Ghost Coast to Coast episode with Randy Savage in it?
I have not.
He
I've
was
only seen the Hogan one.
Space Ghost's grandfather.
Okay.
It was fantastic. It is funny, absolutely funny.
I will have to check it out after the podcast.
Exactly.
Yes.
So here's a rundown on some of his awards and that stuff. These are from the Wrestling Observer, which is a pretty big publication in the States.
You're welcome, Dave Meltzer.
Yeah, exactly. You will not hear on Where Wrestling Went Wrong, that when I'm on the show at least, any mention of Bill Apter, because if I ever see Bill Apter, I will punch him. Why? I just have an irrational hatred for the guy. That's it. It goes back to renting videos back in the day or something like that. One of his videos clogged up my old VCR and broke it. That's why. So I'm still holding out for my $200.
I want my
Apter.
VHS back.
That's right.
I want my VCR. Give me
That's
my
right.
VCR.
So, but anyway, match of the year in '87 with Steamboat, and he was in the Wrestling Observer Hall of Fame class of '96. He also has the Best Pro Wrestling DVD set of 2009, the Macho Madness Randy Savage Ultimate Collection that you were talking about,
Yep.
and the Worst Worked Match of the Year in 1996 with Hulk Hogan versus, that's the free tier cage at Uncensored
Doomsday Cage
in
match.
'96. Yeah, yeah.
Well, that's a given. It's not a very good match, but
And don't forget, in 1998, he was also Harvard University's Man of the Year.
ah,
Yeah. So, so, anyway, in television, you could see him on episodes of or reruns of the Jeff Foxworthy show, as he played himself for a couple of episodes. He starred alongside Walker, Texas Ranger. Yes, Chuck Norris and a Macho Man in one half-hour episode as a prison inmate in the episode Fight or Die. So
that sounds epic.
he was also on the Weird Al show.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
there we go. and he made a brief appearance, as everybody else in WCW did, in the movie Ready to Rumble as well.
Yep, that's one movie if you want to check out. Do it at your own discretion.
We are not responsible for gouged out eyes halfway through, or attempted suicide while watching it, because it's a bad movie.
It's bad late '90s fart comedy
Yeah. Did you ever
with
get a
wrestling.
Did you ever get a chance to listen to his rap album, or any tracks from his rap album that he put out?
Yes, I have. I've heard the famous song "Be a Man,
Yeah,
Hulk."
yeah. uh, it was bad, but it was pretty funny.
It's better than the Hulk Hogan album. I
Yeah.
can guarantee that.
Apparently, he had promoted a. I'm just looking at his Wikipedia right now, and apparently he had promoted a concert tour later that year after he released it. Brian Adams, aka Crush, was his bodyguard, and Ron and Don Harris, aka the bald guys from the DOA, were his touring managers. During this time, the development of a second album was already in progress, with Savage exclaiming, "We are absolutely going to have more records." However, no further albums were released. That's probably a good thing. you
You
know,
wouldn't like to see Randy Savage world tour?
I don't know. I was still trying to get over the whole WrestleMania, the album thing that he did in
Oh, where he's talking about the
1993.
solar system.
Yeah, where he sung about oh, well, what was it? I posted a video and the Randy Savage tribute on the website, so you can go take a look at it and see. But it's from the WrestleMania the album and that stuff, and it's the one where it's got the real kind of McDonald's theme type music happening in the background, and yeah, so it's just
Generic, copyright-free music
yeah, exactly,
with Savage
Muzak,
rapping over it.
Muzak, exactly.
Yeah.
So, but anyway,
Overall, he's had a great career. He's done tons. He's one of the more known wrestlers outside of the household.
yeah.
We've watched some movies like Liar Liar with Jim Carrey. They mentioned Savage. When he wants to take his son to a Randy Savage Rick Rude match. Family Guy talks about Randy Savage all the time still. He's left a very big cultural impact.
I'm just counting out the amount of professional titles he won during his career, and it's over 20 that in different territories and that stuff. He's held over 20 titles over his career, which shows you how big it's been, So, and the big thing was his entrance themes and that stuff. In the past and that stuff, like in the WWF, he used Pomp and Circumstance, which is the graduation theme, pretty much.
I've walked down to it.
Yeah,
I'm sure you have.
everybody has, and they've always everybody wanted to do the finger twirl and oh yeah, just as they're walking and that stuff. And I know when I was 12, I had an irrational liking of getting one of those Macho Madness T-shirts that he was having for WCW and the NWO type Macho Madness T-shirts. I always wanted one, just because it was just an awesome design, but.
And then you can picture Kellen in his basement, spinning and pointing at things.
Freak out, freak out, freak out. Ooh, yeah.
There you go.
There we go. It's coming back. It's coming back, It's a little raspy and that stuff, but anyway.
It's your voice changes when you get older and you can't do voices anymore.
I wish. Yeah, no, it was fantastic. So
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, but the only downside is that we may see it now and that stuff, but with the Macho Madness Ultimate Collection DVD set that came out, there was no WWE style documentary on his life and his career and that stuff, which I would have liked to see. But maybe they felt at that time that they couldn't do it justice. Maybe it would have been another Ultimate Warrior style character destroyer. But yeah. So, but yeah.
That's the one thing I don't like about the current DVD releases is they don't have the bios anymore.
Yeah. Exactly. And WWE can do awesome bios as well, and it's great stuff. And He did make a brief appearance as well in Total Nonstop Action Wrestling in 2004.
Oh, his one night feud.
Yeah. At Turning Point, he teamed up with Jeff Hardy and AJ Styles to defeat Jeff Jarrett, Kevin Nash, and Scott Hall. So,
Yes.
yeah.
And he was supposed to start a Jeff Jarrett feud, but at the time he was not on a very good relationship with Hulk Hogan, and then Hogan got kind of signed. So
Yeah, exactly. Kind of signed, kind of not signed. It was that whole New Japan, TNA invades New Japan thing or something like that, and that's when Jarrett walked into the dressing room and smashed a guitar over Hogan's head and stuff like that.
yeah.
And yeah, that was big, and yeah.
But that was the last wrestling appearance by Savage.
It was, yep. So there you go. If you get a chance to find the DVD and that stuff, that might even be worth just picking up just for sentimental value, and that's it, or or just collector's value.
TNA Turning Point.
Yes, yeah, '05, exactly. So, but the main event of Final Resolution 2005 actually was Turning Point '04 is when that match happened. The main event of Final Resolution '05 was supposed to be Jarrett and Savage for the NWA title. And then the plan was to have Savage to win the belt and then drop it back to Jarrett at the next pay-per-view. But then
The Hogan thing.
the whole thing happened with Hogan. Exactly. So that was that. And it's a big loss. It's a huge loss, but a very influential man the Macho Man was, and that's about it. So.
Legacy that will stand for time. So.
Exactly, and you can tell it's a huge legacy with some of the current superstars and that stuff when you're watching Raw this past week, and CM Punk's wrestling in the main event with Macho Man tribute tights.
Oh, that made my day.
That was awesome. That was cool. That was a very cool. It was a very cool tribute WWE put together, and then it was a very cool thing that Punk did. Yep, exactly. So
he had the classic purple. What was it? Orangish colored trunks with yellow boots.
It came across pink on my TV, but I'm not exactly sure if sometimes high definition cable doesn't give off the right color sometimes. But it was pink with the stars, and instead of Macho Man, it had Macho Man's font on the back of it, but it said CM Punk on the back. It's just leave it to Punk to come up with something like that. I mean, the guy's a student of the game. Like, really, wow, kudos.
Yeah, no, I respect Punk just because he respects everyone else. So
exactly, and it's just a pity that they're burying him like nobody's business on that show. But whatever. So
that's for another time.
That is for another time and for another day and that stuff. So before we leave our listeners tonight and that stuff, your personal favorite Macho Man moment?
Myself.
Yourself, yeah.
Myself.
Yes.
My personal favorite Macho Man moments. Probably the Warrior Macho Man feud is the most memorable in my head.
Oh, yeah?
I've watched that match at least 5 or 6 times. I just love the storytelling. It's perfect storytelling at its best. Also, Macho Man, when he returned in WCW in '99, I loved that character he had.
Oh, yeah?
Miss Madness.
The Macho Pimp, Randy Savage at that point. Yeah, exactly. But Gorgeous George and Molly Holly and Medusa. Yeah.
But I love that character, and I believed he was a world heavyweight contender again.
He was. Yeah, he fought Nash on a few pay-per-views. He fought Sid Vicious on a few pay-per-views. He was the lead heel.
Unlike Nash and Sid Vicious, he was actually believable as being in that title hunt.
Oh, and he was nuts. His character was absolutely nuts. It was back to the old heel Macho Man again, where he's just absolutely, just
treats girls like crap, and
and nutty. Yep, big time. So it was amazing. Myself, the complete Mega Powers stuff from '87 to '89, the whole Mega Powers angle itself. That is how a wrestling angle should be done.
Great.
Just great from front to back. So
take some lessons, WWE. You don't need to have a show every month.
Yes.
You can build year-long feuds.
Exactly. You could have network specials every month if you want. People will watch that. But not pay-per-views every month.
Pay-per-view every month.
No, not nowadays. No, you could do like probably one every 4 months now.
Do it like you used to,
yeah, exactly, and still make a good deal of it. So, but anyway, yeah, Randy Savage. On behalf of everybody from FreakinNitro.com, we want to send sincerest condolences to the family of Randy Savage, his brother, Lanny and his dad Angelo. We do send off our deepest sympathies and condolences. There will never be anyone like him. It's safe to say the Macho Man was one of a kind. You know,
Unique character.
definitely, definitely.